and terrorism today. Today, the threat manifests seamlessly in peacetime to wartime. And the threats in peacetime are more telling, more painful. And that's where safety and security come in. Because these threats are not only kinetic, these are non-kinetic threats. Cyber. Today, India is #1 nation most vulnerable to misinformation, disinformation campaigns. That itself is a security issue. You've seen what's happened in healthcare. That raises security concerns. So security is much larger canvas than a physical kinetic aspect of it. And a secure nation is a nation which will be able to overcome all hazards, all threats. And that's where the citizens come into play. Yet, the human link is always the weakest link. Therefore, what I plan to do is to give you a strategic overview of the conceptual contours, the construct of this aspect of security culture, and also a roadmap how we need to move ahead. Now, if you see at the slide, the correlation between the Honorable Prime Minister's vision of Viksit Bharat 2047 can only manifest if we have a road which is paved with Surakshit Bharat. So Surakshit Bharat in turn must result in a sustainable security, citizen security, which requires empowered communities, and that is what will lead us to a national citizen security culture. Next, please. Okay. Now, what are the conceptual contours as I understand this aspect of national citizen security culture? And I've called it Secure Bharat, an acronym that I have given, where SC stands for security, CU stands for culture, RE stands for reliant. So security, culture, reliant Bharat is what we look at. And I put it as ends, ways and means for clarity of understanding and for construct of a future roadmap. Well, at the terminal line, what do we seek? We seek protection, prevention, preservation of national security at the larger canvas, and through the safety and security of the citizens and the community as such. And therefore, the ways how we nurture shared values, norms, attitudes, behaviors, actions, make everyone a stakeholder in this canvas of a security culture. And therefore, the means are that we need an empowered community with resources, with attitudes, with norms, context of how they take ownership, enhance law enforcing capacities, which is important adjunct as such, strengthen legal framework, and most importantly, promote education and awareness. There is always a large gap between knowledge and action, because that gap has to be filled by attitudes and by something which must come with pride. And that's why we need a secure Bharat. Next, please. Okay. Now, coming to the strategic construct of this concept, I think there are 7 dimensions that I look at it from my viewpoint. The first dimension is that we need to have a positive attitude built into all stakeholders. An attitude where they become owners of a proactive, preemptive, and a preventive and a preservative society of looking at this dimension of security culture. And that attitude can only be built up through the aspect of awareness, which is basically understanding knowledge and behavior. But like I said, between knowledge and behavior, there can be a gap which needs to be bridged. And this gap needs to be bridged by cognitive process communications as such. Because cognitive processes are the ones which help to bridge this gap and create compliance in terms of security conscious mindsets and adherence internally without being monitored as such. Another critical aspect of this construct is the communication. Today we live in an era of digital India, and we must exploit this digital India, this communication manifestation which has seen leaps and bounds over the years, to make it real-time, interactive, supportive, and encouraging from the point of view of security, so that you adhere to the norms which are unwritten rules of conduct by something known as a self-discipline, self-motivation, and becoming a stakeholder in the entire process. You also need to adopt technologies and exploit and understand technologies. Today, technology is a force multiplier in the sphere of security, private security, which is increasing leaps and bounds and making the efficiency levels zoom. And we must be there to welcome, integrate, and even suggest technologies to the scientific world which we seek to empower ourselves, empower the citizens in a larger way. And last but least is the responsibility of each stakeholder, who has to have a perceived role, responsibility, and a self-accountability. Next, please. Okay. There are various models. I'll not go into these models of campaigns and frameworks. If you see something, say something, post 9/11, it happened, some successful models, some refinement models all over the world. Do we need to have such a campaign model? I mean, we can talk of eyes and ears. Basically, it is about vigilant India. It's about ownership. It's about we, the Indians, are going to make sure that our national security is in place. We are going to make sure that the individuals thrive. We are going to ensure that the families are safe. We are going to ensure that our society prospers. So it's we, and therefore maybe a Chaukus Bharat, which is a vigilant Bharat and Surakshit Bharat, could be one such suggestion. Go next. Go next, please. Okay, now let me get on to my third part, which is the way ahead. Now, again, I'm talking of the strategic level. Now, the way ahead has to evolve into four aspects. The first aspect is evolving a framework. Based on the framework, evolving a maturity model, assigning roles and responsibilities as such, so there is accountability also inbuilt, and then the implementation guide. And I'll go over these one by one. Go next, please. Okay. Now the framework of Secure Bharat. It's basically an interaction and mingling of the policy, the stakeholders, and the resources. So it involves a strategy and policies. You will have a strategic framework, and you will have multiple policies for multiple stakeholders. And this must involve into information, knowledge, responsibility, and organization. Then the aspect of awareness and communication. And then compliance and coordination, and finally leading to evaluation and monitoring. This loop has to go on and on till the time, the refinement, which must be a continuous ongoing process. Next, please. Yeah. So what is the maturity model? To my mind, the first thing that needs to be done is to identify a lead institution for developing a secure Bharat strategy. Can CAPSI, along with RRU, under the MHA, be the nucleus to evolve the conceptual contours and outline scope of the strategy? The strategy will take time, but at least the scope of the strategy and where are we heading to? What do we want? And therefore, certain bulleted aspects of that is, I think, a good mix between a national level university, RRU, looks at these aspects, and CAPSI, who's been doing human service on ground, knows and understands this aspect, has the ground level feeling. These two stakeholders combined, of course it will have to be under the MHA so that it has the larger construct and the roof under which it goes. Then promulgate and endorse and evolve a secure Bharat strategy, which will have multiple policies built in, multiple recommendations. Based on that, for each policy, identify one lead institution, whether in terms of awareness and education, whether in terms of private industry, the multiple stakeholders there can be. So identify one lead institution per stakeholder category. And then institutionalize and integrate these policies and stakeholders and move ahead. And while you do this, monitor, review, and refine the process periodically. Go next, please. Now, roles and responsibility. Now, this is a web which is all interconnected, and at the center of it is the MHA. And you'll have multiple responsibilities, as you see, a very irregular shape of the dark blue in the center, because these are not equally distributed. Some will be more, some will be less, some will keep changing. So you will have responsibilities of this web: Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Defense, Information Broadcasting, Cyber, ICT, Education, private sector, civil society, academia, public sector, and many more. Many more. But then, like a fist and fingers, they have to be put together so that finally the punch that you desire is being able to deliver in the direction, in the time that you want it to be done. Next. Now, implementation guide. How do we implement what I've spoken of so far? I think the first thing is to conduct a risk assessment and national context analysis which pertains to our society as such. The first factor. Let us be India specific, let us be a society specific, let us conduct the risks for the next 15, 20 years at least in a futuristic framework on a national context, at least, or say that Viksit Bharat 2047, identify the risk to this rise at the security point of view. Then define the scope and strategic framework. To evolve a strategy, we need a framework, we need a scope, so that we don't just go in a different direction. Design a management tool for this. Identify and promulgate lead agencies and institutions for responsibility and accountability of it. Implement and institutionalize these policies, which continuously will be reviewed. Policies evolve as we learn, as we move ahead. But then implementation and institutionalization is important so that there is coherent methodology in which we move ahead. And finally, like I've been saying, continuously monitor, review, refine, implement, and again go on to monitor, review, refine, implement. Let it be a process of refinement, Let it be a dynamic process which changes with new threats, new environments as we rise to the level that we aspire to as a nation. Thank you. Go next. Right. Thank you very much, and Jai Hind. This was just a strategic overview. Thank you.
Thank you very much, शिवानी जी। ये जितनी 3 प्रेजेंटेशन हुई हैं, उसमें से जो चीज़ निकल के आ रही धीरे धीरे, उनको किस ढंग से शिवानी जी ने अपनी सारी प्रेजेंटेशन में निकला, ये सारा प्रोसेस बहुत ही अच्छे ढंग से इवॉल्व करना पड़ेगा। इसकी समझ, इसकी ज़रूरत, इसके लिए रिसोर्सेज, सरकार की मान्यता, सरकार की इच्छा, पॉलिटिकल विल,